Welcome back, everybody, to this episode. And today we're talking about the Bitcoin mining prices of our Bitcoin miners. But before I do that, I just want to talk about Bitcoin itself, because a lot of people are still under the impression that the bull run may be over because we saw this big dip. But in reality, the dip wasn't as big as we thought before, and we have recovered nicely since then. We're still holding around the $54,000, $55,000 range, and I'll get more into the Bitcoin chart. But what we want to look at here is actually the exchange outflow. And what exchange outflow is here says the total amount of Bitcoin transferred from all exchange wallets. And usually if it's going from an exchange like Binance or Coinbase or anything like that, then it's usually going somewhere else as a cold storage wallet where people are going to be holding Bitcoin. And as you can see here, every single time we've gotten big dips in the Bitcoin price, we see a huge inflow of, or actually an outflow of Bitcoin from exchanges. So what's happening is huge institutions are buying Bitcoin at a cheap price and putting them in their wallets, their own personal wallets. So what we see here, if we zoom in, let's zoom in these past three corrections right here, right? Coming from all-time highs of 57K to then 62K and to recently 64K or 64K. So let me just zoom in a little bit better. I'm still on my iPad, guys, because I'm still quarantining. I don't have my computer yet. But as we can see here, we can look at the spikes, and we see a spike here after February like 20th, around there. So we made a peak of around 57K, and from there we had a huge drop, and from that huge drop we saw an increase of these Bitcoin outflow from exchanges. And so we see that every time we see a dip, and from our next one we saw another thing too, another huge amount of Bitcoin being exchanged from these exchanges, or being outflowed from the exchange. And then we saw that actually the biggest transfer of Bitcoin from exchanges was recently, right now, when we had that huge dip. So what is actually happening behind the scenes is, even though there is a lot of FUD, there's a lot of misinformation about how the bull run might be over and how we're going back to 30K or 20K or 10K, it just doesn't seem very likely, because there would be no point for huge outflows of Bitcoin going from exchanges into wallets for storage and for holding to happen. Because if it was actually the end of the bull run, then they'd be selling and there'd be inflow into the exchanges, not outflow. So it doesn't make sense. And now we saw the highest amount of Bitcoin exchanged or outflowed from exchanges. So that can kind of give you some thought and reasoning about where the Bitcoin price is going, because if a lot of institutions are grabbing onto and buying Bitcoin when it's cheap, they know there's still a lot more room for Bitcoin to go up, and that the bull run is not over just yet. So you can see that here in this this chart right here. So usually what happens is, after we see a huge inflow or a huge outflow of Bitcoin from exchanges and the liquidity goes down in these exchanges, then we see a massive move to the upside, or we see continued movement. So we saw that back here in between February 14th and February 28th. We saw that big spike. We saw it again here between March 14th and March 28th. And then we saw it here in April, right before our dip, our small dip, we saw a huge outflow of Bitcoin to then make that move up to our all-time high now, which was at 64K. And then when it went back down, we saw even bigger outflow of Bitcoin. So that could mean that we're going on our next run up. So there's just a lot of FUD out there. I just want to be transparent and show you just exactly what's going on too with Bitcoin, and how it is looking on the exchanges and outflows. And we have to monitor that as well, because that gives us a good clue on what is going to happen with the Bitcoin price in the near future as well. So I just want to start off by showing you that. And now let's just jump into Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miner charts. Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin first. And what we see here is actually a unique pattern forming right now. So we had our huge bottom right here when it went down to 52,000 around here on April 17th. And we saw a nice move to the upside and a gradual return to this ascending wedge. But what we saw is another rejection right here and another move towards the downside. And what we're still seeing is a move to the downside. It went down actually to $53,000 a couple hours ago, but since then it has recovered back to 55,000. Remember, the key level to hold is 55.5K. But what we actually are forming here is a bullish pattern. We see if we even go down a little bit further, we make a comeback up here and we cross over this $56,800 mark right here. We're creating a W pattern, which is a bullish pattern. It's a reversal pattern from the all-time high. So usually what you see is fluctuations between levels in Bitcoins. You see in Bitcoin's price. So you see either M formations, which show or signal the top of that level, and then when it reverses down through several levels, we see a W form, and that's what we're actually seeing happen right now. And so usually if you see an M pattern forming, like over here, I don't know why it's not drawing. Sorry, I'm still on my iPad here. I'm still kind of quarantined, so I will be giving you guys actual better videos in the near future, just in 1 week. But thank you for sticking with me for this. But we see an M pattern forming here towards the top, and now we're seeing a W pattern form. So we're seeing the price fluctuate within these levels, and right now we just put in a low. We could put in a higher low right here, and that could signal the beginning of this W pattern formation starting to actually right here confirm. So once we see a retest of this neckline right here, which is around that $57,000 mark, and we see a move above it and use as support, we then can start moving upwards towards that 60K price, which is what we want. And if we look here at the EMA ribbon, we see that it's actually starting to curve down towards the bearish side. That's why we've been seeing this bearish trend right here. We've been seeing price fluctuate below the EMA ribbon. But what we also see is it's actually acting as resistance here. So what it would probably do is curl down this way, and we see the price go over here. So what we want to see is we want to see price action go through the EMA ribbon and break that support, or break that resistance, so we can move upwards to the upside. But right now, Bitcoin, it is looking bad because of that big dip. But in hindsight, once you see that exchanges are outflowing Bitcoin more, that is going into it, that means it's a very bullish sentiment that people are still holding Bitcoin. Like, huge institutions are still buying Bitcoin up cheap right now, since it's been a huge dip. It's not really a huge dip, but like, it's a dip that happened very quickly, and it caused a lot of panic in the crypto space. So that is a perfect opportunity for institutions to buy and maybe even cause more FUD, more fear and uncertainty and doubt in the space, so they can get as much Bitcoin and as much crypto as they can for as cheap as they can. And what you see here now is we're forming a W pattern. So that is a good sign that we're forming this. We just need confirmation of breaking this neckline, using it as support, also this EMA ribbon, using that as support, so we can ride and go to new all-time highs, which is, in my opinion, what's going to happen. It may take the end of this week to see that price action go back to normal, but I don't see it happening any later than that, because as you can see with the outflow chart, you see as soon as we have a huge outflow going, we see the Bitcoin price returning within a week. So that is my prediction for the Bitcoin price right now. It is forming that bullish W pattern, and it's not looking too bad as of right now. It just has to hold and not break that pattern. If we have get a lower low, then that could mean that we're going to go down to a further retracement down towards 50K, around there. 50K or maybe 49K, somewhere around that. We have some more support from our volume index. But as of right now, it looks like it's forming a higher low on, and this is a 4-hour chart, and it's forming that W pattern that is a reversal, a bullish reversal pattern. But that's it for Bitcoin. Why don't we jump into our other miners? Let's start off with Mara. And if we look here, let me just zoom out a little bit more. All right, so we see Mara actually still kind of holding that upwards trend line, and we're seeing it just kind of bounce around there. If we do an 1 hourly check, let's see what's going on there. We're starting to see we got that bearish flip right here of the EMA ribbon right there, and now it's just descending, using as resistance for the price action right now. And we're seeing kind of like a move towards the outside and then a move towards the inside, retesting this slight break in the upwards trend. So if we get a rejection there, our price action could go lower here to this golden pocket. And the golden pocket here is from this fib retracement, going from the very low of this bull run right here, starting at $15 all the way to the very high price here at $57. So we did from swing low to swing high, and our fib retracement golden pocket for this one is going to be at the $31.62 area to $30 area. And so what I see happening is if we do not hold support about $35 around here, if we don't see support and we see a rejection from this upwards trend line, we could drop down here to the $31 mark to $30 mark, where this golden fib area is, golden pocket, where we also see a lot of price action actually fluctuate in between as well. And we see that we should see a bounce from that fib golden pocket towards the upside and maybe just come back into this this ascending triangle pattern, or this ascending wedge pattern. But if we break through that as well, then we could see further downside here to this resistance box area of around $25 to $24. So that's the price prediction. If in the next coming days we do not hold this $35 area right here and we break that trend line, we could come down here to the 31 and we can come back down lower to 24. So those are the price targets as of right now. We do not want to create a lower low, because that means that our price is going to be reversing and going towards a more downtrend, because we got this M pattern that formed right here, right? So that means that is a bearish reversal. We're going to be going towards the downside, and now what we want to see is we want to see a bullish reversal. We want to see a W come back down here. So that is what we're looking for, or at least a peak towards the upside for Mara. And the lower low would be a bearish scenario right here, because our low right here at this point is around the $30 mark. So what we want to see is if it breaks through that, then we could see a price action down to the $25 area. But as long as we stay up in this area, maybe see a bounce off from the golden pocket, then it's not looking too bad. But we do not want to be putting a lower low. So this is our low. We want a higher low up here to see continued price action movement. Sorry, my chart's so messy. There's a lot of lines here, but that's what we're seeing. And if we were to move to the upside, what would we see as resistance is this $38 mark, where we see a lot of volume being traded. And as well, we see the EMA ribbon kind of forming its resistance level there at that same price area. So what we want to see is a bounce and a hold, or at least putting in a higher low in this area, just like how Bitcoin is doing. We just want a higher low. If it becomes a lower low, then it's when we're getting really bearish, and we can see this whole price structure kind of fall apart and collapse. But we do see a golden pocket here at the $31 mark that could move our price upwards and bounces back into a higher low area. So that's it for Mara. Let's look at Riot. All right, so Riot, it is not looking good for Riot as well. Like I said, these prices are all influenced because of Bitcoin's price. And remember, Bitcoin's price is caused by a lot of FUD and a lot of people that are scared that the market is already going into a bear market, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. We still have some more room to grow. And of course, if you see in the outflow change, a lot of other institutions are thinking the same exact thing. They just want to get in for cheap. But what we see here is we see Riot actually kind of breaking the symmetrical triangle pattern that we had going on for like the last couple of weeks to even like months. And if we look closer right here, we see it actually break the trend line. It was holding on for a good moment here. This is the 1 hour again, until around market open, when it broke down here and then it found support here at our golden pocket right here, where we found support multiple times. We found support right here, here, and then now here, where we're seeing the price move towards the upside. Remember, these are always good areas to load up on these particular stocks when I have these resistance boxes. And it also happens to be where the fib golden pocket is for this area. And I got the Fibonacci retracement from swing low to swing high here. But we could see a bounce back up to retest this trend line that we've been having and to get back into this symmetrical triangle shape. If we do not get that and we're staying here hovering over it, we could see a very bearish scenario where we see Riot actually breaking down, because if we zoom out If we zoom out a little bit, let's see here. This actually could form a descending triangle, which is a bearish pattern. So if I just erase this stuff, if we look here, we're actually seeing a lot of support happen right around here. Sorry. So we're seeing this downward sloping resistance area right here going this way. And then we see a horizontal support line going here. So if this descending triangle plays out, it could be a very bearish scenario for Riot. What we want to see is that bounce back up, breaking through this EMA ribbon and finding some resistance here at around $53 and hopefully using it as support and then going back up. For the downside, we would see price come back down here and retest. Let's see if we take the high and the low. So let's do our trend line. So if we were to see that move happen towards the downside, we'd see an area around $3, which I don't think is very likely. We have a lot of other support coming in, but that is just a likely scenario. If this descending triangle breaks support here at the golden pocket, which we've seen multiple times as support here around the $38 to $40 mark, then we could see a huge move to the downside, breaking this pattern. But what we want to see is price strength happen here, and then we see a movement going up from this area all the way up through the EMA to at around $54 to $55 target. So that's what's going on with Riot right now. And now let's look at SOS. So with SOS, what we see here is it's in that shape. It's in that descending wedge pattern, and it still hasn't broken. It hasn't been doing too much so far. It's just finding support here on this line. We can move a little bit more. It's still finding support on this line. This is the 1 hour chart, but it is fanning out its EMA ribbon. So there's a lot more resistance happening right now because of this continual downtrend that's been happening right here. So we're still holding on right here as support of this descending support path. But what we want to see is a move up to the upside towards that $4.50 mark, which is also huge resistance too. Because if we pull up our VPR, we see that right around this level, like this whole area level right here, was acting as support for a long time. But since we broke down sub $4 or sub $5, we're seeing a lot of resistance happen here. So what we want to see is we're looking at the price action here on the RSI, and we're seeing it's very oversold too. So we can see continual movement up. It's more reset to go up for a huge run. But as of right now, I don't see any real divergences on the RSI. It's just showing that it's really oversold, but we also have very little volume happening too. As you can see, we had high volume here for our selling and our buying, but we still have very, very low volume, which is what you want to see when you have these big macro patterns happening. This has been forming for the last 2 months as well. So for SOS, it's still looking bearish, but the pattern has not broken yet. We're still finding support. Tomorrow and the next couple of days are going to be very telling on what these Bitcoin miners are going to be doing. So as of right now, if you're trying to scale in, I'm not a financial advisor, but just dollar cost average in, buy every dip, every low price, all the prices that I mentioned. And also, if you are doing options too, just be careful that the premiums don't get too out of the range for you, and that your delta is not being affected greatly, because once we have these big dips, your delta gets affected a lot, and that also affects how much money that contract gets, right? Every time the price goes up, it could go up a lot or very little, and that depends on your delta. So if the price keeps going down, your delta is also going to go down. So even if the price returns back to normal, your contract is still going to be losing money. So just be careful for this week as the price of Bitcoin recuperates. So that is just what I'm going to be saying right now. But as of right now, a lot of these patterns are just at the crucial moment where they're just holding on to support. And if they break a certain support, you can see more continual downside. We did see a 10% drop today. again, around average for all these miners. So we could see continued days ahead of us like that. But like I said before, Bitcoin is still looking bullish. It's still creating a higher low. It's on the verge of creating a W pattern for a reversal. And we could see the Bitcoin miners do exactly the same thing in the next coming days. But as of right now, it's still continual downside. It has to just hold this critical level here, right here, of the $4.18 mark. And if we break through that, then we can see a price move down to $3.30, like around here. So that's it for these Bitcoin miners right now. Like I said, there's still a lot of FUD going around in the crypto space about Bitcoin, and there's fear, and it even affected the altcoin market, which is still booming. There's still an altcoin season happening. If you're still also scared to invest in this, I would highly suggest altcoins too. Yet again, not a financial advisor, but altcoins are having an altcoin season, so you can see very huge potential gains, especially if you just want to invest. You just want to buy altcoins and just hold it throughout the bull run. That's a great idea as well, especially because these Bitcoin mining stocks they're really high risk because they fluctuate more than Bitcoin. They're more volatile as well, so that's why it increases the risk. But if you want something less risky, then I would suggest investing in big cap or huge market cap altcoins, right, that have that price action that's a little bit more stable, but they have a lot more room to grow. That would be a good bet. But as of right now, these Bitcoin miners are still just kind of holding on to their main support level areas of these major patterns that have been happening. So if they do break it, acknowledge the price targets that I mentioned for the downside and also for the upside. But that is it for this video. Just want to make a quick update. I'll be coming out with another video to update you guys tomorrow as well for the price action. But that is it for right now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this or found it informative, please hit that like button. I appreciate it a lot, and it helps my channel grow a lot. I already had so much support happen these past couple weeks with my YouTube channel, and I'd like to thank all of you guys for that. But that's it for me. Peace out.